You're listening to 15 Minutes, where we feature community leaders sharing what the rest of us should know but likely don't. Hi, Chad Franzen here, one of the hosts of Share Your Voice, where we talk with top-notch law firms and lawyers about what it takes to grow a successful law practice. This episode is brought to you by Gladiator Law Marketing, delivering tailor-made services to help you accomplish your objectives and maximize your growth potential. To have a successful marketing campaign and make sure you're getting the best ROI, your firm needs to have a better website and better content. Gladiator Law Marketing uses artificial intelligence, machine learning, and decades of experience to outperform the competition. To learn more, go to gladiatorlawmarketing.com, where you can schedule a free marketing consultation. Mariann Crincoli is a special education attorney with nearly 30 years of experience. Mariann represents families of children with special needs to obtain appropriate educational support and services from the local public school districts. She also works with families whose children have been involved in bullying matters at school. Mariann, thanks so much for joining me today. How are you?
Thank you, Chad. Thanks for having me. Fine, thank you. And how are you?
Good, thanks. Hey, it's great to have you. Thanks so much for joining me. Hey, if you could, tell me a little bit more about what you do and kind of about your firm that you work with, Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler.
Sure. So we represent children who have special needs, disabilities ranging from attention deficit disorder to autism to emotional deficits and everything in between. Generally, families come to us when their child's disability is impacting them in their educational setting, whether it's a decline in grades or issues with social or emotional learning, anything in that regard. And they require special supports and services in order to really access their education and be on an equal playing field with their neurotypical peers to the extent appropriate. So what we do is we work with families to get those services and supports from their local public school districts, either in the way of a 504 plan or an individualized education plan under the IDEA. My law firm, Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler, has been practicing in this boutique specialized area for more than 50 years. And we are proudly the preeminent special education law firm in the state of New Jersey, and we have a statewide practice. We have cases as far south as Cape May, up to Tenafly, which borders New York City. So we are a statewide practice. We also offer estate planning services and special needs planning, trusts and estates, as well as work with families whose children have been involved in bullying matters during their school years.
Okay, well, that's very interesting. You're the first attorney that I have spoken with that kind of works for a firm that has that specialization, and the first attorney who specializes in the things you specialize. So I'd like to get more into that as we go along. But first, tell me, how and when did you know you wanted to become an attorney?
That's a great question. You know, a lot of people would sit here and tell you that they knew when they were young children that they wanted to be, and that really isn't my case at all. I was in college. I think I was a sophomore in college, and I wasn't quite sure what I wanted to do. I majored in communications and history. I love to write. I love to do research. And I always felt like I was a strong advocate for myself or anybody that I cared about. And so the decision sort of just came upon me like, well, law school would allow me to do a lot of research and a lot of writing. And I really always enjoyed learning about the law. So I sort of put two and two together and decided that law school was for me.
Okay, great. And as I mentioned in your intro, you have decades of experience. Tell me how you got started. You went to Seton Hall, I believe, for law school, correct? How did you kind of get started
I
then
did.
in the professional legal industry?
So following law school, I clerked for a judge for a year, which a lot of young attorneys do. And it clarified for me that I really didn't want to be a trial attorney. So I started at a firm that actually represented one school district. And I got involved in those matters and I really enjoyed them. So the firm that I went to next had an actual focus on representing school districts. And I got involved in working in that department, and I worked on special education matters, but I also worked on all other matters that school districts face: contractual disputes, employment issues, disciplinary matters, both student and staff, school board governance. And it was very interesting. I really enjoyed it, and I did it for many, many years. And then as I started to do more special education, I really felt a connection with the families as I was sitting in these meetings as the school district representative. And I had an opportunity to switch sides. And I thought that my insight into how school districts operate and their constraints and their goals would really shed a unique light on the matters on behalf of families. So for the last 7 years, I've been representing families.
Yeah, that's great. So have you always been passionate about special education and matters associated with it, or is it just kind of something that you've kind of discovered and wow, you love it now?
I discovered it while I was representing school districts.
Hmm.
So,
Um, yeah, go ahead.
oh no, so I was going to say one of the unique things about our firm is that all of us have a connection with special education. We either were special needs children growing up, or we have special needs individuals in our families. So we live this professionally as well as personally.
And then you also have done some work regarding guardianship matters. Is that right?
Yes, I have done that work, and my firm actually does that work now. We have a partner who dedicates his practice to that work. I represented not only hospitals in guardianship matters where they had they had patients who were in need of guardians, and the hospital would actually make an application for the court to appoint someone as guardian. So I represented the hospital in many cases, and I also served as guardian to some individuals who did not have family members to take on that role.
Has your approach to guardianship matters influenced your approach to education law?
I don't know. I actually never thought about it that way. Guardianships are more often than not reserved for individuals who are older than 18. So they're adults who lack the mental capacity to make decisions for themselves. Our special needs kiddos, some are very impaired, but some are not as impaired as others and go on to do great things in life, making their own decisions.
You also work with families whose kids have are dealing with bullying issues at school. What are some of the challenges in representing clients in kind of those harassment, intimidation, and bullying cases?
So there are quite a few challenges. The way the law in New Jersey is written is quite broad, and school districts have significant discretion in conducting investigations and holding their board meetings when there are appeals of those decisions. Sometimes the law is applied too broadly, and sometimes it's applied too narrowly. We have some school districts who are um, I don't want to say eager, but they're more inclined to find a bullying matter, and some who don't substantiate bullying cases when they really should. And the difficulty is that another difficulty is that the investigations are done really by lay people who have minimal training in how to conduct an investigation. So my role is to really take a look at those investigation records to see whether the investigations were done properly, comprehensively, whether the appropriate witnesses were interviewed, and whether the appropriate questions were asked of those witnesses. So there are quite a few challenges: the law itself, the way the investigations are conducted, and sometimes the community and political agenda in certain public school districts. really impact the trajectory of those cases.
How did your how did you kind of come together with Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler?
So interestingly, when I was a school district attorney, I had many cases with Stacy Greenwald. We were on opposite sides. We developed a great rapport, and there was an opportunity at Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler, and we spoke of it, and I seized on the opportunity.
I know you worked for you were a general counsel for some nonprofit organizations. How did that experience kind of shape your perspective and your career moving forward before you came here?
So, both nonprofits were community development organizations, and both provided educational services to underprivileged. So, while I had represented school districts for many years before taking on the general counsel roles, I knew that I didn't want to completely give up being involved in education matters. So, those roles allowed me to keep my hands so to speak, in the education world. And so they gave me that opportunity as well as opportunity in understanding the business of nonprofits.
Are there any actually what are some kind of the latest trends or challenges that you're dealing with now in special education law and special education that you're kind of following or dealing with? I know you also publish articles in professional journals. What are some things that might be hot topics at the moment?
So, with the pandemic, we saw a significant increase in cases involving children with emotional and social deficits. So if you think about, the fact that our youth are meant to be in school in a social setting on a daily basis, they are stuck at home, learning on a computer, not really being able to socialize. A lot of that impact caused a difficulty for many of these students to return to school and function in a typical way. So we have seen a mental health crisis amongst our youth throughout the pandemic, and that crisis continues to impact these children today. So the rise in emotional disabilities is something that we are seeing a lot of. We have a lot of cases involving kids who are struggling with anxiety and depression. And there is a classification category called emotional regulation impairment, which, if a student meets the criteria for that category of classification, they may be eligible for special education and related services. However, these students are really difficult to program for because school districts are typically not in the business of providing mental health supports to public school students. But the law says that they are required to address the whole child and meet the needs of the whole child. So we're seeing a lot of initiatives in public schools for social emotional learning. And we're also seeing some strong mental health programs arising in many of the school districts across the state of New Jersey, which enable a child to actually get into the school building when previously they weren't able to do that. If a public school can't meet a child's needs who has emotional disabilities, then we're in a position sometimes to have to ask for a placement in a therapeutic out of district school. So it really depends on the nature and severity of the disability, the needs of the child, and what the school district actually has to offer.
Are there some moments or some particularly memorable occasions in your career that you kind of look back on that are most proud of that you're most proud of?
There are many, and most of them come from satisfied clients whose child receives the appropriate supports that we advocate for and winds up being very successful. And we ask our clients to stay in touch with us and let us know how their child progresses through the years. And when we receive, positive Google reviews and Facebook reviews, it is very rewarding to know that you've made a positive impact in a child's life. Is very professionally rewarding.
When you were in law school, I don't think you had any doubts that you wanted to become an attorney. Did you ever see yourself, going down this road?
I did, because I took the one and only school law course that my law school offered, and I absolutely loved it. So it's no surprise to me that I quickly figured out that this was going to be my niche and that this was going to be the direction my career would take.
How can people find out more about Sussan, Greenwald, and Wesler?
So we have a firm website, www.sgwlawfirm.com. We are on Facebook. We lecture on a monthly basis. We lecture at out of district public schools. We lecture in libraries. We do podcasts like this. We also are involved in the New Jersey Institute for Continuing Legal Education. So if there are any lawyers out there who want to know more about what we do for referral purposes, we often provide seminars on what we do, and we're involved in many organizations where we sponsor lectures, and we're on Facebook and other social media.
Last question for you. So let's say there's parents out there with children who have special needs or whatever, and they hear you, but they don't know for sure if they qualify for your assistance. What would you say to people like that, or to anybody with kids with special needs, maybe to keep you in mind?
Give us a call. We always will have a conversation with you to find out a little bit about your matter. And if we think that we can help you, we will invite you to a virtual consultation where we will review all of your records in advance of meeting with you. And we'll sit down and we'll develop a legal strategy for you. We can be reached at 609-409-3500.
Okay. Hey, Mariann, it's been great to talk to you. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much for your time and all your insights.
Thanks, Chad. It was great to meet with you.
So long, everybody. Thanks for listening to 15 Minutes. Be sure to subscribe, and we'll see you next time.